Hey everyone, and welcome back. I am joined by the uber talented Mr. Michael Fugoso, otherwise known as Fugs. How are you?
Hey, that's me. Yeah. How are you, dude?
Yeah, I'm stoked.
Up, guys? What's up? Design good?
For anyone that doesn't know Mike, he's actually a good friend of mine. We love his work here at Design Cuts. He's got one of the most unique styles in the whole design community right now. And so if you haven't seen his work, stay tuned. It is super impressive. How would you describe it? It's kind of like the skeuomorphic, like 3D layered, cool style you got going on.
Oh yeah. First off, thanks for that crazy intro, dude. That was an awesome intro, man. I feel good now. I feel
Cheers.
good because of what you said. Okay. How do I describe it? I mean, essentially I draw everything flat. I'm a flat illustrator. And then I just add a ton of depth to it with a lot of highlights and shadows. So I would say, at first I called it skeuomorphic stuff, but some person corrected me and called it neomorphic. And okay. I was like, whatever, dude. It's
neomorphic. Like, I like it. It sounds fancy.
Yeah.
Cool.
I guess it's neomorphic style.
Without further ado, I'm going to say let's get into it because it is a process, and Mike has kind of really simplified it there in how he described it.
You see that? So obviously I couldn't draw this for you in real time because it would take me too much time. But I just wanted to show you, this is a simple flat illustration. I start all of my illustrations this way. First off, you can all see my screen, right?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
So, hey, you're pretty cool. That's another thing I have to apologize for. So I know the thumbnail had a different illustration. So I didn't choose that for this presentation because I restarted my computer recently and I don't have that brush handy. But I did get that brush. It's a granular brush. I did get it from Design Cuts or your partner, Retro Supply Co.
It's all good, but I believe you are using the paper textures, right? Because you use them in most of your work.
I am doing the paper thing.
Sweet.
We are
all good.
Okay, let's go. So I make this. It's every composition I do. Well, I start off with a sketch. In retrospect, I should have put the sketch here so you can see how bad my sketches are. But I start off with a sketch to show, or to guide me on how to illustrate it. Illustrator. I typically make everything simple and flat like this. And the biggest thing to note here is look at my layers and how I organize them here. Like every single shape is in its own layer almost. You guys see that? So that's the frame of it.
Yep.
That's one of the lightnings. That's the clouds. That is super important for this process because when we take it into Photoshop, or even if you do it in Illustrator, you continue to do this in Illustrator, you can texture each shape layer by layer. And a lot of people tell me that that's a very tedious thing to do. But I'm telling you guys, like, there's a lot of shortcuts. You can texture the whole thing at once, right? And be done with it in like 5 or 10 minutes, but it won't look nearly as good. And you'll see why. You'll see why.
Yep.
So that's one of the main things is after I make everything, I separate every shape into each layer like that. Make sure it's organized like that in your layers. And then I go to File, Export, and nobody ever does this. This is why I'm showing you guys all this. Export as, and then you turn it into a PSD, a Photoshop file. You guys all see that? Am I moving too fast?
No, it's all good.
So I'm exporting this as a Photoshop file. I'm calling it, I actually already made the file. If you can see it grayed out there. That was the second step. It's called texturing shapes. I'm not actually I am going to save this so you can see the next window. I'll just call this texturing shapes too. Okay. And then if I hit export, this is super important too that I forgot to mention earlier. Make sure that you are in RGB. Your Illustrator file is in RGB because RGB has a wider color gamut than CMYK. So you can do all kinds of more vibrant color options, and I guess you have what does that translate to? Like the lightest pixel and the darkest pixel
Yeah,
is
like the values. Yeah.
You have a wider range from your lightest and darkest pixels.
Got
So
it.
that's, yeah. So make sure you're on RGB, and then put your resolution at 300. You can even customize this. If you want to make this super upscale, you can even go like 400. You can even go 700. You know what I mean? And that, like, you know, if you have like some really high def texture images, like maybe you want to go super high like that. But I'm going to go down to 300. Make sure this right layers thing is, you know, is selected, and you hit OK. I'm not going to hit OK because I already saved this file out for you, and I'll show you how it looks like in the Photoshop document. Okay, cool. So that's the Illustrator process right there. Yeah, let me tell you guys why this is so awesome. Because if you're someone like me who doesn't do a lot of hand drawing, you can make your stuff in Illustrator like this and organize it like this. When you export it as a PSD, you can also open it in an application like Procreate and texture each thing there. And so there's a lot of uses for that, for what I just showed you. I think that's probably the most important thing I've showed you for the whole thing. I'm just to be honest.
Like, yeah, we peaked early. No, I know that's not true.
It's downhill from here, guys. So okay. Let's get into Photoshop, homies. Okay, so this is how it looks like in Photoshop. It looks almost exactly the same, but now it's in raster form. And you can see all the layers imported the same way too. It's the same exact order as my layers in Illustrator, and that is the most important thing here. So if I turn that, see, that's my frame layer, that's the lightning layer, like we were doing earlier. I did save this just for your reference, guys. I'm gonna turn all these off really quick. I'm pretty sure there's a faster way to do all that, but I'm doing it the long way. And then this is how it's supposed to look like in the end. Okay. So
crazy.
I'm gonna get my flat illustration, and then I'm gonna turn it into this. So if you were asking me how I describe the way I do things, Tom, like that's pretty much what I do. I make flat illustrations and I add layers and layers of depth to them in different ways. So this is one of the ways I do it, is just this paper style.
Cool. And so, yeah, everyone, you get an insight into Michael's workflow here, right? And I know you're not going to have time to show the entire process, but can you kind of show how you apply textures to a piece of it, I guess, and then people can kind of extrapolate that?
No, actually, that's all I prepared. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, dude. Yes.
Don't do that to me.
So that's how it's gonna look like in the end. I did that because, Tom, you're right. I'm not gonna have nearly enough time to do all of that stuff. But as you can see, look at how I separated everything into layers like that. Cool, right?
Looking good.
Okay, so now we're back at it. Okay, so once I have this here, I go to my Finder. I know it's different if you're on like Windows or something. I haven't used a PC computer in a while. I have this folder called textures. This is where I put all my textures. Here's the second most important thing in this whole thing here is I have my textures ready to go in black and white. Okay, and I got all these from Design Cuts. This is a craft texture. That's, you know what I mean? I'm not just,
it's pretty sweet.
You know, yeah. Okay, so that's the texture we're going to use. That's why I have it up here. This is the low res version, and then this is the high res version. So this is actually the original file here, and check it out. It is what, 2000 by 2000 pixels or something like that, almost. This is a bit higher. The way I did this, yep. This is actually this image here times 4. You know, I just kind of like Photoshop the texture together. So if you never need more space, you can just take the same texture file and then like tile it up into 4, and then turn it into something like that. So just a side note there. Here's some other textures I use from the same paper texture pack. I think it's called Craft. See, like that's a really, really cool texture to use because you have all those folds and stuff. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then this is another one I use a lot. It's called Woodblock, I believe. That's also available in Design Cuts, which you probably don't have the link because I never told Kat. I'm sorry, Tom.
Should let you off. It's all good.
But it's called Woodblock. Woodblock. And you can use this as both a vector texture and a PSD texture. But I'm using the PSD version because I'm working in Photoshop. Isn't that such?
Cool.
This is the most awesome freaking wood texture you'll ever find. I've looked everywhere. Okay, guys?
Mhm.
Everywhere. And that's the best.
I know
wood.
you're very particular as well. You're all about the details.
Yes. Do you know why, Tom? This is a really awesome wood texture?
Because it's got crazy fine details.
Yes. Yeah. And also like these like lines are very exaggerated. So you know what I mean? Because real wood has much finer lines and you won't be able to tell it's wood because they're so fine. So that's why that's a really awesome wood texture. Okay, sorry, I'll jump into. I know I'm just like, you know,
It's all right.
like,
I know we got some texture geeks in the Design Cuts community.
Yes. Okay, check this out, guys. What layer? Okay, wait. What layer am I on here? So I'm gonna start with this frame layer. Okay. I'm gonna take this craft texture. I'm just gonna drag it on into Photoshop, and it looks like that, right? I'm gonna cover the entire screen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You guys see that?
Yep.
And then I'm gonna click on that and I'm gonna hit multiply. So I don't know if you can tell in the screen, but if you look up close, the texture is just pretty much plopped on the entire thing like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you command click on the shape layer that you've made, so if I hold command and click that, I basically select every pixel on that layer, and you get like this little ant trail thing. I call it an ant trail because it looks like a bunch of ants. And go on your texture layer here, and then click on the mask button. So now the texture is only applied to that shape, and I know you can't really see it because this is a very dark blue color. Can you see it, Tom?
Yeah, we can see it zoomed in. So I know we're going to get this question in the comments. Is there a reason you do it that way with the mask as opposed to a clipping mask?
No.
Okay, just personal preference.
It's just something I'm used to, and key commands are just really fast for me. Mm-hmm. So
I think as well, correct me if I'm wrong, there might be some elements as we progress in your workflow where it gives more control doing it this way. Because when you
yes, maybe I don't know what a clipping mask is. Oh yeah, okay, yes, do it this way, guys.
Yeah. Do it this way. I'm trying to think ahead in your process because I'm familiar with it. I think this is actually the way to do it. So avoid the clipping mask for now, I think, people, and follow the way Mike does it.
Yes, please. You know what's funny? Like people have been asking me to do this tutorial video like for years, and I just never did it. And now here we are doing it for Design Cuts.
I'm humbled. Appreciate it.
Hey. All right. I'm sorry. So the next thing to do is to establish a light source. Okay. I establish a light source on the top left corner in almost every single one of my illustrations, and nobody calls me out for it. Nobody does. That's why I keep doing it. Okay. So I'm going to create a layer here on top of that. It's underneath my texture layer, on top of my frame layer. I'm going to call this highlight. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to command click my frame layer. So I have that ant trail again. You see that, guys? Cool. And then I'm going to get this gradient tool, and I make sure I set the gradient up here. I make sure it's set to white to transparent. Okay. Because basically what I'm doing, Sorry, I'm catching myself saying basically too much, so I'm trying to stop saying basically. But I'm painting white on where the highlights are, okay? And that will tell you where the light's coming from. So I click and drag here. You see that, guys?
Nice.
Cool.
Yep. And you started it off canvas because that's going to make sure it's not too intense, right?
Yeah, let's try it in canvas and see what happens. Good call. Good call, Tom. That looks, oh, actually, yeah, it's a little too intense that way. I even thought it was intense the way I had it, which is from out here. But it's a little softer. And if you guys find it hard to control that, like there's this other control called the opacity that you can totally just tone down a bit. Whoa, wrong layer, guys. I did.
Oh no!
Sorry.
Yeah, hold on. You did the highlight on the.
I did the highlight on the wrong layer.
Frame layer.
My bad, homies.
Let's try it again.
Okay. Boom. Are we on the right layer now? Okay. So if it's too intense, that way you can always use your opacity to turn that down a bit. You know, there. That looks pretty cool. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
What I also do, which you probably won't be able to tell here. You know what? I'm going to exaggerate this a bit. It's just so you can see what I'm going to do next. I should have thought that through a bit, but I'm going to exaggerate my highlight layer so it kind of covers the whole thing. Okay. And then I'm going to turn the opacity down a bit. I typically wouldn't do it this much. But I also add a shadow layer on top of that highlight layer. And I'm going to call that shadow. And here I just get a paintbrush. I set the paintbrush to feather, like 100% feather, pretty much. And then I increase my brush size to like that much. You know what I mean? Like something crazy like that. And then I just paint off the edges. Oh, whoops, I'm still in the white color. I switch to black right there, and see, I paint off the edges to add a dark shadow in the corner. You guys see that?
Yeah, you get that really soft feathered edge. And I guess it doesn't matter if it's like behind the highlight layer or not. So shadows at the bottom and highlights on top.
Yeah, I usually keep the highlight shadow on top because I'm just thinking how light behaves, and the light usually goes on top of the darker areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I usually keep the highlight layer on top. Thanks for calling that out, Tom. This is important too. Set that to multiply. Otherwise, your black shadows will look very washed out and ugly looking. If you have it as multiply, it blends in with your darkest pixels there also. And you can also tone that down with your opacity if it's too intense. Cool. Check this out, because you guys aren't average designers. You're extra. We're all extra people, right? So if I command click this again, get my add trail, and I want to add a hotspot to my light source, I'm going to make another layer and call this highlight 2. And then I'm going to get my brush, change it to white, and then I'm just going to push that right there. So now I have an extreme hotspot here, and it blends in softer as it goes down. You know what I mean? This is how it looks like without that hotspot. So, yeah. I mean, like, there's pretty much what I guess the reason why I did that is just to show you that you can customize how the light looks like, you know, to your liking. You can even make your brush like a little less feathered, and you can have like a little harsher light there if you want to. Does that make sense, Tom, or am I just talking?
No, it looks really cool, and I love the depth it adds. The hotspots.
The hotspot.
They look pretty cool.
You know what, Tom? You're a hotspot. Okay. Oh my god!
You can't unleash the bromance on the community. You got to build them up to it, Mike. So, like last time I saw Mike, we were all getting drinks in London. So I miss Mike during lockdown. Everyone.
I know. I miss you, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And you got me into like fine wines. Thank you, Tom.
I try.
Okay.
I try.
All right. So we're gonna create another this is okay. This is something that everybody asks me, and it's the easiest thing to do, and for some reason it's like the hardest thing to figure out. I'm gonna add this rim light, and what the rim light's gonna do is it's gonna make this like give you this feel of touch, like you can touch the paper. So I'm gonna command click that frame layer right there. I'm gonna make a layer below the frame layer. Okay, I'm gonna call this thing rim light. And I'm gonna push Option Delete to fill my selection there with white. And okay, if I turn off my frame layer, that's basically what I did. I just made the same exact layer below it, but all in white.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make
and
sense, Tom?
Everyone, yeah, I advise like pay super close attention because this is such a key step in Mike's process, how he achieves this look.
Yes, because you remember this, right, Tom?
Mm-hmm, I do.
Heck yeah, dude. So now that you have that same exact shape in white, go to this move tool here, push your arrow key twice to the left, twice upwards, and then you get this really cool edged paper look right there. You see that, dudes?
It adds a lot.
It adds a lot. It makes you really feel like you can cut your freaking finger on that paper, right? Okay, so that's the rim light layer. Now we're gonna create some shadows. So, okay, a lot of people that do this style, they use the standard like FX panel here for drop shadows. I almost never use a drop shadow thing because I like to customize my shadows. I know it takes a lot longer to do, but things look so much better. So if I go underneath my rim light layer and I fill that with black, Option Delete, basically doing the same exact thing as I did with my rim light. And then I'm gonna move this off there. You can see it's a very hard, it looks like a very hard shadow like that,
yep.
Right? Sorry, I'm gonna move faster so I can make sure I have time. The iPad thing is really short, guys. It's just the easiest thing to do.
All good.
So I'm gonna click on multiply because everything in black needs to be multiplied. Just remember that, guys. Okay. Filter, convert to smart filters. The reason why you do this is because it's non-destructive editing. You know what I mean? Like you can always revert back to its normal state if you have it as a smart filter. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And here I'm going to set this to like, I don't know, like somewhere around there. 19. Okay. No. 21.9. Okay. And then I'm going to turn the opacity down there. I'm going to turn it to around 40% just because I've done this a lot, and 40% is like a pretty cool number for me. You know?
It's the magic number.
Yes. I'm going to call this layer shadow. Sorry, always get into the habit of naming your layers.
Yeah, because this process creates a lot of layers, but it's so worth it.
Yes. And then you option drag that and duplicate it. Okay, so now it just looks like two shadows on top of each other. You drag that one out a bit more. People always ask me, why do your shadows look so exaggerated and realistic? And this is why, because I do multiple shadows. Right click there, edit smart filter, and then I make that even blurrier, guys.
Interesting. So it's like a staggered shadow.
It's a staggered freaking shadow, bro. Did I not show this to you guys last time?
Maybe I forgot this part, if I'm being honest. And yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's yeah, this is why I never ever use the FX panel, dudes. Like, I get it, it's quick, it's easy, but you know, you gotta be extra sometimes. Yeah, and you can like if you zoom in close, this is how shadows behave in real life. Like if you were to have some type of diffused light shining on something, like you'll have a harder shadow coming out and then you'll have a softer shadow below it, you know?
Yep.
So see, that's your harder shadow and this is your softer shadow. And then here I can right click that. If it's too soft, you can even make it, you can go down to like maybe 14. You can see how it gets even harder and harder as I go down. But you kind of want some type of blending. thing where you still see that banding line though. Sometimes banding lines are cool. So people are like, stay away from banding lines, but
you know what I love about you sharing this technique? Everyone watching can immediately learn it and get it and use it. I guarantee this must have taken you a lot of trial and error to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
So you guys are getting the shortcut, the Design Cuts community. But for Mike, I don't know how long this took, but it must have been a lot of playing to get this down.
Yeah, I play with a lot of shadows, a lot of lights. You know what's a good trick? If you want to learn how to light something, just go in a bathroom, get an object, and turn on a flashlight, and then see how the light behaves on that object.
Yeah.
So let's do one more really quick. That's basically what I do 50 million times, okay, in order to get the final result. Once I have all that, so that's all for this frame layer, I'm going to put all that into one folder. That way, you know, it's just easy for me to find it later, because like the more and more you do this, like you're going to get hundreds and hundreds of layers, you know?
Yeah. Cool. So you said, yeah, we're going to do one more time. And so hopefully this is good because everyone just learned the technique, but I think it's helpful to do a refresher. So now they're, you know, they're going to be able to be more familiar with what they're going to see second time around.
Heck yeah, dude. Heck freak yeah, Tom. Okay. Boom. I'm going to do this quickly. You guys can tell me to slow down if you want to. Okay. Cool. This is another important thing, okay? I basically did the same thing. The reason why I sized the texture the same as the last one is because you need consistent sizing in your texture or else it'll look kind of weird.
In the learn section, when we publish this video, it's like, keep the texture the same size, because I bet tons of people forget to do that or don't think to do that. Yeah. And it's going to throw the whole illusion out, right?
Right. You're right, Tom. Do it, Design Cuts team. Okay, so you got the texture the same size, just as for reference. Again, it's the same size as my frame there. And check it out. The lightning, I'm texturing this thing here, and it's a very small piece of this frame. That means I can move this texture anywhere as long as the lightning is covered, right? And that's what you want to do with every shape, is to randomize the movement of the texture. That way, you know what I mean? That way it looks like a whole new piece of paper. Does that make sense, Tom? Yeah.
Yeah,
so
completely.
I am randomizing. I'm going to choose something like there. Okay. Command click on your lightning. Okay, there you go. Mask that and then set that to multiply. With something as small like this, I don't need to use the gradient tool. I can just use brushes. And for people that looked at the thumbnail with the granular texture that I use, this is the exact same process. Instead of a feathered brush, I use a granular brush. I know I'm giving you guys a ton of information, but whatever.
Let's throw caution to the wind for a second.
All right, command click, make a layer on top of that, call that highlight. And then you guys will see this process takes forever, and this is the most daunting part. Is not like the techniques in here is actually super easy to do. It's just you got to do it over and over and over again, you know. So I'll get a brush, set it to white with my feather at 100, and then I can paint there to get a lighter part of that yellow. So that's my highlight. Okay. Command click that again. Let's create a shadow. Call it shadow. I push X to change my color to black. And then paint off the edges. Notice how I never paint directly on the shape because I want that kind of like gradual look. It's basically making a brushed gradient, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then
super
I will
soft.
set, yeah, keep it soft, bro. Set that to multiply again. And it looks like it's not doing anything, but trust me, the multiply does so much. And then I'm turning the opacity down there. Okay, below my lightning layer, create a rim light layer. Sick. And then I'm gonna set that to white, option delete, and then use my command keys or my, what do you call it, move tool here arrow it up so you can see right there. If I zoom up, you can see my little rim light there coming off the edge of that lightning. And then command click on the lightning underneath the rim light. We're going to call this shadow again. Set that to black. You guys could tell I've just done this a million freaking times, and it's just.
So I want to note something which might seem intuitive, but people might be wondering, okay, so on the frame, you move the rim light down and to the right. On the lightning bolt, you moved it to the left. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
So do you mind explaining why, just for people watching?
So, how do I explain? Okay, I figured, okay, that the frame, okay, is a cutout shape like this, where it has kind of like a hole in the middle of it. So if the light is shining this direction, the rim light would probably show up on that edge of the paper.
Yeah.
So that's why I placed that there. Since the lightning is not like a punched out shape, it's more like a cutout shape. I figured the light would hit this first, right here on this side. So that's why my rim light is going that way. So basically, I said basically again, but anyway, you set your rim light to the direction where you think the light's going to hit it. Cool. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. And so I'm going to make a guess. All the other shapes here, the rim light is going to be on the left. Literally the only one where it's on the right is going to be the frame, because nothing else is a kind of cut out hole. Everything else inside is a shape.
Exactly. Dude, Tom,
look at that. On fire. Nailed it.
Yeah, you did, dude. That's why you're Tom Ross, bro. Is anyone else Tom Ross? I don't think so. I really don't think so.
Actually, side note, they are, because I want to rank on Google for my own name, and there's an elderly Scottish football commentator that's been commentating on football for about 50 years. And you can't get on Google. The guy's just sat on my name. He's got a million articles about him. So, Tom Ross, wherever you are, you're killing me, man.
Yeah, gosh, man. Yeah, screw that guy. I mean, he's probably a nice guy.
I'm sure he's lovely. He's so selfish, though, with his incredible career.
But yeah, dude. So what are you going to do about that, Tom?
I guess.
Cool.
See, that's really cool. Let us know in the live chat, watching that the second time through, does that look a little bit less intimidating than the first time? Does that make sense for everyone? Do they feel like they could comfortably go and apply that over and over again to all the different shapes in this piece?
Yeah, can you guys? Can you do it? Oh, I spelled lightning wrong, but you get it. Anyway, I'm going to turn all this off. That's basically all the time I really have to show you this part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then at the end, it's going to look like that.
How incredible is that? And the thing is, everyone here is now super confident they can do this. There's no further technique or skill or kind of magic trick to get it to this final outcome. It's just patience. It's doing the same thing over and over and over again, methodically, until you end up with this beautiful piece of art. Yeah.
Hey, dude. Heck yeah. And what else was I going to add to this? Nothing. Okay. Let's...
It looks beautiful. So now you're about to blow our minds with some augmented reality, I believe.
Well, I'll try.
This is the bit I really have no idea how you do this kind of stuff. I'm a bit of a technophobe, so I'm intrigued.
Okay, this is the funny part, because this has got to be the easiest part here. One of the easiest parts. Let's get into... Okay, we're done with this stuff, right?
I think so. We're about to get augmented.
Step 4, AR frames. So I split up. All you got to do is split up your illustration into transparent PNGs. You see that? So I put that all in one layer because I felt like
this is like the top one, then, right? Because
that's going to go on. Yeah, this is going to go on top.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to go. Look how ugly that looks. but still, it's all good. This is going to go below that. That's going to go below that. And then look how many times I did this, and that's going to go below that. So there's only four different layers to that. And then there's this thing called a target image. And what that is pretty much whenever your camera sees this image, it's going to activate the AR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we rewind for a second, because those steps are not totally clear to me. So if we go on number one, please.
Okay.
Number one, I get, because that's like that's the frame and the boat, and then just a transparent PNG bit for the whole.
Yeah.
But then when we go down to the next one, if we could please, Mike, frame 2, what's going on with the shadows there? Because this is not just the layers and the shapes. I'm seeing some of the boat there, and at the top of the lightning bolt, I presume that's some of the shadows from the frame.
Oh yeah, that's gonna take some time. Okay. Nah, you know what? I guess it's not as simple as you know what? Well, it kind of is as simple as I thought. So, when you make this boat, right? It casts a shadow, and it goes on top of, like, this is essentially just the shape and the lightning, but this is a shadow from the frame, right? And then this is the shadow from the boat. So here's the thing. You guys actually don't have to do this. You can actually put your shadows on separate layers to have them pop out too. The reason I did it this way is because with PNGs and having them, the transparency with adding double transparency with shadows and PNGs kind of has this weird washed out look. That's why I end up putting the shadows onto the textures themselves.
So you option clicked on the, let's call it the C, that bottom bit. So you got that shape selected, and then you created a mask on the boat shadow layer.
There you go. Maybe that's the clipping mask you're talking about.
Or just a mask, the way you were doing it before.
Yeah.
And then once you've got everything masked up, so you've got your lightning, you've got your C, and then you mask off the shadows above that with the boat.
Yeah.
And so on, you then just export that as a transparent PNG, right?
Yeah. And you know what? I guess the reason why I didn't really spend time like going through that process is because I still don't know if that's the best way to do this. Like, I think the main point I wanted to show you is that you pretty much just need to just think of making a diorama in a shoebox, and you want to make it pop out. You just set 4 different, frames like that with transparent backgrounds. I think that's all I really wanted to get out of this. The shadow thing, I understand that's weird, but you know what? Maybe I'll dive into it. Maybe it'll make a little more sense when I get into the app.
I would love if you could, just for one of them as a quick example.
Okay.
Or you mean dive into the augmented?
Yeah, I can actually show you how I did it in my.
Yeah, let's do one super quick.
So frame 2, okay. See, I have the ship shadow here.
Yeah.
I have that shadow there. I have the frame shadow.
These are just the shadows you created in the main part of the process before, right? So when you had the double shadow thing, where one was like more blurred and one was less blurred, that's all we're seeing here. It's just those shadows.
It's the same exact thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the same exact shadows. I'm just clipping them onto the shapes.
Okay.
I'm masking them onto the shapes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's pause for a second.
How about, do you mind if I just jump into the AR real quick? Just because I really feel like this is not a huge part of the process. This is just a weird thing that I did for this.
Okay, cool.
You know what I mean, guys?
Yeah, completely. The main thing is you've kind of split your piece into layers. So you've got the top layer at the top, and then the ones below, just below that. So you've kind of staggered it, right?
Yeah. In retrospect, sorry guys, I shouldn't have clipped those shadows, because I think you probably would have got a pretty good effect without me clipping those. But anyway, you'll see in a second.
Amazing. Cool.
Yeah. Can you guys all see that?
Mm-hmm.
That's my iPad screen. Okay, I'm gonna click on this slide AR. Okay. And
so this is an app that you just opened, is that right?
Yeah, dude.
All right.
Let's go to add, and then photo library because I know I saved this into my photos. Okay, so I'm gonna pick those. See those 4 layers that I have here?
Yep.
The same frames. I know you can see all my other junk in there. I'm sorry. That's my signature. If you guys want to forge anything that I do. Okay, so I'm gonna click this one. So there, I added one of the frames there. Okay, I'm gonna add another frame. I know, Tom. I know exactly that you know what I'm doing now.
Yeah. And to make the point, you started with the topmost one, and then you're working down. Yeah.
Yes, and it doesn't actually. If you mess up the order, it's fine because you can totally rearrange them after the fact.
Cool. Okay.
And then this is my 3rd one. Okay. And then I'm adding my 4th one, guys. Which is that one.
People are enjoying that we got an AR component. This is the future. We always want to be on the cutting edge. I mean, give it 10 years, Mike's going to be joining you in 3D virtual reality alongside myself. We'll be in your living room presenting this.
I'll have one of those neural filters that makes me look younger. Okay. All right. So I'm going to click on done in the bottom right corner. And now it's going to say, set a target image, bro. That's what I was telling you guys earlier about the target image. So my target image will be this right there. So every time it sees this image, it's going to activate the AR. And this is going to be kind of weird because I'm holding an iPad and, I've never held an iPad because this also works on your phone. I usually do this on my phone.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to hit done. So now it says, look at the target. If I get my phone here, you see that?
Whoa.
It just splits everything up. The 4 frames that you did, it just splits it up like that.
That's so crazy.
See how easy that was to do? All you have, what's up?
Mm-hmm. I want to jump in there.
Yeah, jump in it, touch it, get your paper cut, your hand cut by the paper. Okay. If you click on edit, you can control the depth of, see how I can have it come at me more?
That's
or I can have it go inside of itself.
So
here, and then on the side, that's where you can change the layer of the order of the layers, So really all I wanted to tell you guys, I know the shadow stuff was pretty confusing, but the whole point was I just wanted to tell you that you can set it up into 4 different layers for it to pop out at you. So honestly, I think this would look better without the texture. If it was all flat with no shadows and then you added the AR to it, it would look really cool that way too.
It looks pretty cool like this. I think the team are probably going to want to share this awesomeness on Instagram. Are you good if we clip some of this video and share it on Instagram?
Hell no. I'm sorry. Yeah, of course.
Get out of here. There we go. And then if we play with the depth and stuff, how do you do that?
Play with the depth, bro? Okay. My earpiece fell off again. Okay. Cool. Are we good with that?
Yeah. Mike, that's so cool. That was so worth it, though. I know there's a few steps to follow along, but leave a quick comment. What do you think of the technique? Did you follow along okay? Just let us know what you're feeling about the session, because I told you at the start it's pretty mind-blowing and it's pretty different, but I'm just such a fan. Like, you don't see much work like this. Carol says, not your average illustration. He is at Fugoso on most of the socials. So yeah, definitely hit up Mike and share any work you create on the back of today's session. But Mike, thank you. Such a pleasure.
For sure. Look, the AR effect reminds me of parallax. It exactly is the same thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So like, anyway, guys, sorry. Figured I'd add that there. And also, my top does look like the texture. Thanks, man. It does look like the texture. Yeah. Okay.
Mike, I'll catch up with you really soon, but thank you for being awesome. That was incredible. We appreciate you.
You're incredible. All right.
We'd love to have you back in the future. Bye, mate.
Okay. Love you guys.
Bye. Thanks, Mike.